This is the Women Your Mother Warned You About podcast, sponsored by Sales Gravy. I'm Gina Tremarco, Master Sales Trainer and Director of Coaching Programs at Sales Gravy. Before we get started with this week's episode, I want you to go and check out Sales Gravy University. Sales Gravy University is the place where sales professionals and sales leaders from across the globe go to learn and upscale. And right now, if you're a brand new user and you've never used Sales Gravy University before, you can get your first course for free by using coupon code free course when you go to learn.salesgravy.com. That's coupon code free course when you go to learn.salesgravy.com. And hey, I've got several courses there that you can check out. So I hope to see you there. But let's go ahead and get started with this week's episode.
I want people to look to weeds as for inspiration, I should say, and just a demonstration. This is what it looks like when you have, forgive me, but when you have a weed mindset. How could a weed have a mindset? But they do. And it's not sitting around smoking doobs. That's not the mindset we're talking about. It's that they are fierce. They're optimistic. They're persistent. They're aggressive and urgent and adaptive and resilient, which is exactly what we need to be if we want to succeed in business, because all of this is about competition and thriving in competitive environments. And that's why we want to look to weeds, because they do it really, really effectively.
God knows what will get included with this episode. But let's go ahead and get started. Here we are. Hey, Warners, welcome to another episode of The Women Your Mother Warned You About, with me, Gina Tremarco, one of your co-hosts, and
Susanna Gray-Jones, the other co-host.
The blonde co-host. And of course, this show is sponsored by Sales Gravy. And we're so excited that on this episode, we've got yet another guest, you're speaking at Outbound, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure I got that right. Stu Heinecke is with us to be here with us. He was with us last year with the last co-host. And I just feel like Susanna needed to meet all of the speakers this year, because a lot of them she didn't get to meet last year, and she didn't get to experience you on the podcast last year. So we had to bring you back. Yeah.
And
it's
Susanna,
not just for me.
There, love? Were you there last year?
I wasn't. I was virtually.
I see. Okay.
For any listeners actually who do want to tune in virtually, it was a brilliant experience. I felt like, it was so professional. I felt like I was there. So, but I will be there this year, and I'm
okay. Excellent. And you will love it. It's an amazing event. That last year was my first time. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's going to be bigger and better this year. So we're super excited. You're going to be there. We're going to be there. Susanna and I will be back on the main stage as the lunchtime entertainment, I like to say, as we live stream this podcast for 2 days over lunch, which is super fun. So we're looking forward to that and looking forward to hearing you speak. And I don't know, Susanna, I know that you were listening to the past episode with Stu, because I gave that to you as a homework assignment. But
there's quite a few that I listened to actually. You got to hold me back on this episode, guys, because I have lots of questions of these nuggets of wisdom that I know we'll be getting.
Yeah, Stu is very cool. He's got such a cool background. I would say, hey, go listen to the last episode where Stu was on here. I think it was episode 139. I think I just vaguely recall that because I know I sent you the link. So episode 139 to get the part 1 with Stu. This is part 2 with Stu. And so I want to kick it off with, when we last left off with you last year, you were getting ready to launch your newest book, which is out now. We started talking about it. I don't think it was officially launched, but you were going there. And that's How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed. And I love this, that you have a weed strategy. So I'd like to first talk a little bit about that, about your book. And then what are you bringing to us at Outbound? And then maybe I'll let Susanna get a word in edgewise, because she has brilliant questions. So let's kick off with talking a little bit about your book.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, by the way, it just launched. It just launched June 1st. So
awesome.
It's just out. And by the way, I mean, your listeners can't see us, but I'm not talking about this weed, the kind you smoke. I like when I talk about that. Suzette's ready to kick me off the show already.
I mean, I know you guys have legalized it over there. So I was like, is this a thing for sales now?
But what I am talking about are those weeds that are in your yard that you can't get rid of. And you might be cursing them by now. And they're just like, you just can't get rid of them. They keep coming back and they're relentless and they're brilliant.
Useless.
They're brilliant. And we all know what it means to grow like a weed. So those are the weeds I'm talking about. Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited about this book because the thing is, a long time ago, I was driving down the Santa Monica Freeway in Los Angeles, and that's 6 lanes of traffic going this way, 6 lanes coming the other way, and a 40-foot wide median. It's all concrete. So it's no place for a plant to show up. But I noticed this dandelion growing out of a crack in the concrete median. And, that's the thing that we see. We see that kind of stuff everywhere. We know. I mean, that's what they do. They grow out of anything. But, and so it shouldn't have been a very unusual experience for me, but it was because I was thinking, well, look at that thing. It doesn't look like, first of all, it showed up in the middle of a freeway. So, but it doesn't look like it's complaining. I mean, it doesn't look like it's saying, well, this sucks. I saw myself as, living at the beach somewhere. It just took root wherever it landed. And I just thought that was so impressive. And then I realized also it's just sitting there with those happy yellow flowers and that geodesic dome or domes of seeds that are blowing around. And it's running a process, isn't it? It's a very purposeful thing that it's doing. And you might wonder, well, how on earth did it get there? I mean, like, why aren't there apple trees out there in the middle of the freeway too? And petunias, why aren't they growing? And you realize, well, no, dandelions have those seeds that they fly around and they probe every possible opportunity to take root. And isn't that what we should be like in our businesses?
I love that. Why isn't there an apple tree growing in the middle of the highway, Stu?
I'll tell you why, because they couldn't cut it as a weed.
Okay.
That's what it is. Seriously, that's what it is.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, because weeds don't do anything without an unfair advantage. I mean, if you think about it, you can see this grow. You can see it happening in your environs. I was going to say your lawn, but I won't. It's probably your lawns are perfect, But
we've got fake grass now. Dare I say?
But the thing is, so they have those seeds that fly around. They probe every possible opportunity to take root, as I just mentioned. And that's an unfair advantage. Petunias don't do that. Apple trees don't do that. Their seeds are in their apples. They drop. They don't really grow they don't spread very far. But weeds are meant to spread and conquer territory quickly and aggressively. And so that's what I'm saying. They don't have what it takes to be a weed. They don't have those unfair advantages that weeds have.
I love that.
Weeds are things that we want to get rid of though, right? So
we still want to pull them.
Just exactly. I mean, like, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but why would I want to grow my business like a weed if I can't wait to get rid of my weeds? I see your conundrum. But here's the thing. I'm looking to weeds not as my friend. Well, those are my friends. Although at the end of the book, I did say that the weeds are working for me now. They're kind of my meme, for the book. But but they're not. It's not that. It's just I want people to look to weeds as for inspiration, I should say, and just a demonstration. This is what it looks like when you have. Forgive me, but when you have a weed mindset. How could a weed have a mindset? But they do. And it's not sitting around smoking doobs. That's not the mindset we're talking about. It's that they are fierce. They're optimistic. They're persistent. They're aggressive and urgent and adaptive and resilient, which is exactly what we need to be if we want to succeed in business. Because all of this is about competition and thriving in competitive environments. That's why we want to look to weeds, because they do it really, really effectively.
Well, to piggyback on that, to help defend Stu, not that I need to defend him, but just so that, because I like to go head to head with Susanna's devil advocacy. If you think about weeds and you think about salespeople as weeds, right? So some of the most successful salespeople are like annoying weeds. right? You're like, I want you to go away. And once again, I turn around and you're creeping back up. I think I've pulled you out and thrown you away. And what do you know? There you are again. And you keep coming back. And then eventually you start to see in some weeds the beauty, right? Like dandelions are pretty, right? They can be pretty. There are certain weeds that are pretty if you stop to like appreciate them. So I think, if you compare a weed to a salesperson, I
love that.
Good salespeople are persistent, right? Like a weed.
Well, yeah. And I would say that the thing that I often find myself repeating now about weeds is that, one, they always deal with what is. Really hard thing to do, right? They always deal with what is. They never do anything without an unfair advantage, or maybe many unfair advantages. They never do anything alone. They never just rely on their own efforts. We hear about getting referral sources. They never do anything alone. So they're always going to collective scale. And then finally,
so wait, I don't want to, if you don't mind me cutting you off for a second. So how do weeds not work alone? What are they doing?
Well, I mean, look, when you see a dandelion in your lawn, are you seeing one?
True.
Or are you seeing many? You might notice
true.
one.
Yeah. It's like they travel in a pack because they're spreading their seeds.
They do. And the thing is that if if it was just one dandelion showing up in your lawn, it's no factor. You just pull it out. I mean, it would be nothing. But if you notice one in your lawn, look up, you'll see maybe hundreds of them out there. And now all of a sudden you have this plant that is very aggressive, a very aggressive spreader. Each plant produces about, let's say, 15,000 seeds per plant over a 5 to 10 year lifespan. So if you see hundreds of them out there, we know you're going to have a really hard time to get rid of them. You're going to have a hard time competing with their push for turf, and or let's say maybe market share, because we could relate it to market share. So the other thing, though, just to continue, is the final thing is that weeds always focus on the things that make them win. So if we're talking about mindset and we're talking about unfair advantages and scale, and really it's running a process that constantly causes them to win. That's like, I would hire salespeople like that all day long. That's the perfect description of an entrepreneur and of a salesperson.
What do you mean when you say unfair advantage?
Well, in the weeds world, a lot of times that comes in the form of actually, a lot of different ways actually, but one is seeds. And so that's one of the levels in the weeds model. It's an acronym for weed inspired enterprise expansion and domination strategies. And it's this model that helps you actually identify and cultivate new and amplify unfair advantages in your operation. So that could be something as simple as a great location, or let's say, well, I was going to say in the case of weeds, seeds are often one of their big unfair advantages. We just talked about dandelion seeds and how they fly around and probe every possible opportunity to take root, which means that they spread a lot more, a lot faster, a lot more effectively than an apple tree does, or a sequoia. Sequoia is sort of the tree that everyone seems to think or an oak is a great metaphor for growth, but they don't spread anywhere. They don't conquer ground very effectively. So the seeds are a big one. In my business, I seem to wear a lot of hats. That's actually not a great advantage, but one of those hats is I'm one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists. So when my cartoons are published, they reach an audience of 2.1 million readers. Who else matches that? Or how else might you match that? I mean, it's hard to match.
That's a lot of seed spreading, Stu.
That's a lot of seeds. Yeah, I'm a crazy weed. My books are seeds. They're out there. And if I get up and speak, or I will be getting up and speaking at Outbound, well, that's an unfair advantage. That's different from attending. If you're going to speak, then you get a lot more attention at the show. I know you got a lot of attention because you were up there on stage. Let's face it, it's an unfair advantage. You're one of those those women that our mothers warned us about. That's great. I mean, that's another one. The name of your show is that's an unfair advantage. That's a really cool name for a show. For a podcast. So does that make sense? We've got lots of them. There are all kinds of unfair advantages that we can bring to bear.
I just wanted you to expand on that some more for our listeners, because for anybody in sales, right? Think about yourself. What could be your unfair advantages, which to me is really about your unique selling proposition. It's about what differentiates you. So when you hear the word unfair, sometimes you could think of that as a negative thing, but wouldn't it be cool to have unfair competitive advantages? Why not? We should have those. What are yours? That's what I want the listeners to think about.
Yeah, you should think about that.
It's a different mindset. I love it. I want to know though, Stu, as a salesperson, what's your unfair advantage?
Well, I've got a bunch of them. One is I'm able to get meetings with just about anyone. I mentioned cartoons before. I use cartoons to break through to people. I've broken through to presidents and prime ministers and celebrities, virtually anyone, using my cartoons. And so that's an unfair advantage. Again, it's all that really is it's a competitive advantage that your competition has a really hard time, maybe an impossible time, matching. So, and it's unfair to our benefit. It's how our competitors would view them. They'd be saying, well, that's an unfair advantage. How are we going to meet that? Yeah. How are we going to beat that? But yeah, I mean, so as a seller, God, I get to reach just about anyone. That's like a superpower. Yeah.
You're reminding me actually of a way I once got a prospect's attention. In Shrek, you've got the cat when it does the sad eyes. And there's that picture and everyone's heart just melts. I remember once trying to reach a prospect and using that picture and saying, what else shall I try? And they were like, hey, that was so funny. But it doesn't work for everyone. And as the listeners are, as probably Gina is, I'm starting to think now, what is my unfair advantage? And the thing that comes to my mind is that I can sing. I'm not amazing, but I'm okay. I'm quite a good singer. And
wait, hold on. Stu, we need to back up for a second here. She's okay. She's operatic trained.
Oh my God. Wow.
Just saying.
I don't do it as a living, right?
Well, I'm just saying really it's cool. Not just a passing thing. She's actually trained, but go on.
Well, I'm not a professional cartoonist. I'm not a professional singer. So, I'm fair. But what I would say is if I started singing to people during recordings on video, do you think people would think that's a bit weird? I mean,
no, I think they would love it.
Weird in a good way. Like, Jeb talks about, in sales leadership, there are 7 principles of leadership. And one of them is you are not normal, right? So leaders who stand out, right? We are not normal if we're high performers. We're not normal in how we do things. We're not normal in how we think. And that's a good thing. That's why we're in the positions that we're in. So, Susanna, if you decided that you wanted to sing opera on Vidyard, why not?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll give you a lot more encouragement as well, because look, the whole point is we've officially transitioned from weeds to getting meetings, which is cool. It was well done. but because I'm going to cover both in my talks for Outbound. Please join us for Outbound.
Can't wait.
It's going to be a blast.
Anyone in sales should be there. It is going to be a feast of sales.
It will be amazing. So the thing I was going to say though is that if we're trying to reach people that are tough to reach, well, why are they tough to reach? They're tough to reach because they're busy and probably in great demand. So you've got to stand out. And literally what you need to stand out as is a person. You have to humanize yourself. And so when I send a cartoon, it's not just when I do it also for clients. So they send my cartoon pieces out and we get meetings for them. But when I'm sending one out, I'm the cartoonist. I mean, why are you're not going to resist meeting me? That's just not going to happen. So I guess the point is in all of the contact marketing, not content, but contact marketing that I describe in How to Get a Meeting with Anyone and get the meeting actually as well. This is all about humanizing ourselves and really creating the reaction on the other end of this as just, oh my God, who is this? I love the way you think. I mean, if you could do that, you won a major battle in terms of getting meetings with the people that can really make a difference to your scale.
Well, and it disrupts, right? So part of it is disrupting the status quo by standing out and getting attention and showing a different way of thinking. I want to flip the script a little bit and put Susanna on the spot. So Susanna, on the spot, in the moment, what's your unfair competitive advantage?
At the moment,
I thought you were going to sing.
At the moment, and I mean, I was like, "Hello," I was the opera. Gina's asked me, but she knows I'm going to ask her in a minute. Back.
Well, you usually put me on the spot first, so I decided to leverage this moment.
And don't you worry, I will. But one thing I will say, and one thing that I've been really surprised at, is since starting my own business, what's differentiated me from my competitors, and my competitors know this, they know it, but they still don't do it, is video and voice messages to people I can't get in contact with. And it's not new. I mean, people know I'm known as that person who sends voice messages to people at their company to try and headhunt them. And my competitors know this, but they still don't do it. And I'm beating a lot of them. They're going to hate me if they are listening to this, but I am, because we have healthy competition. Because a lot of them, we talk. And, I think what I'm intrigued to know, and I definitely want to ask Gina what her unfair advantage is. But what I want to know on that, Stu, I'm really keen to ask you, why are not more people taking advantage, do you think, of there? And how can people know what that competitive advantage is?
Well, I don't think they realize what they are. And really, you mentioned that you're using video but you're not singing, and you should actually sing. They will never forget you.
I'm going to. And any listeners who want to message me, I'll test it out on you, and you can tell me if it's worth doing. So
listen, you should just just start testing it in your business, and you'll start finding that they'll be saying, "Wow, okay, I couldn't resist," as opposed to, "Well, I got your message," right? And nice message, but that they'll be saying, "I couldn't resist," and that's where you want to go if you want to get meetings with anyone. That's the territory you want to reach.
Thank you. I love that. And it actually reminds me of something I put on LinkedIn not that long ago, which was like, if you get in contact with me, I'll sing a song of your choice. Give me a song choice and I'll do it. And I did get quite a decent response rate. So Gina, what's your unfair competitive advantage?
Come on now. Don't you know? Haven't you?
I thought you knew mine, so I'm going to pretend I don't know yours.
I think my unfair competitive advantage is the humor and the improv. It's always been the thing, and combining it. I'm not the only person who does funny or does humor. It's combining that skill set with having a business acumen and actually knowing how to run a business, and having consulted with many businesses over the year and having experience in turning around businesses. And, one of my claim to fame is putting together really good teams. And when you combine that with that solid business scientific piece of it with the creative improv comedy side of it, that makes me really unique and different in how I execute that. So I think that's my unfair competitive advantage. If anyone else out there, including the two of you, think of it's something else, I would love to hear it, because I think Stu hit something that I think is important. A lot of times, why do people not take advantage of it? Stu said it, because they don't know what their unfair competitive advantage is, because they don't spend time having self-awareness of it, because they might be lacking some confidence. The other thing that I've seen over the years, and many years of coaching people, especially in coaching entrepreneurs and salespeople, is that there's some imposter syndrome involved where they don't see their own value. Right. This is why coaching is so, I think, beneficial, because a coach can help you see the things you can't see. But when you can't see the things that other people see in you, this is where you have to start paying attention to how people react to you. Right. Which is something we teach in comedy, is paying attention to the behavior. That's going to feed you to be like, if you keep getting the same feedback of like, you're so good at this thing, just embrace it and accept it and be like, all right, everybody thinks I didn't realize I was good at it. And then I hear it enough. I embrace it. I accept it. I'm like, I'm really good at that.
Well, I could add quite a bit to that. Remember I mentioned the weeds model. Mm-hmm. The weeds model exists at there are 8 levels of strategy that exists to help you find your unfair advantages and create or cultivate even more. So there's seed strategy, anything that causes people to become aware of you and form the intent to do something, transact with you in some way. There's seed pod strategy. You're borrowing the infrastructure, not the infrastructure, but the networks of others. You guys are doing that with this. You're doing it with the podcast. You're going to do it at Outbound because you're going to be up on stage and everyone will know who you are. Those are unfair advantages. Those are great. There's also then thorn strategies to defend your turf, keep people away, to defend IP and so on, and segmentation strategies to create bulwarks against disruption, because we all get disrupted. We're hearing about recession now. That's a disruption. The pandemic was a disruption, et cetera. And then there's some root strategies and soil strategies. And one of my favorites is vine strategies, which vines are they're just tubes with leaves and roots, but they don't create their own trunks or structures to get them up high. They borrow from others. They borrow the infrastructure of others. And that really is analogous to creating a lot of alliances. Just, you can't do things alone. To scale, you need to involve other people and other entities. And so could I give you a real quick example of how that?
Please.
So in the weeds book, in the How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed book, I had said, I'm announcing that I'm starting a new award. It'll be an annual award called the Total Weed Award, and it will exist to recognize and celebrate entrepreneurs and startups doing just totally weedy things in the marketplace, weed-like growth. Well, I'm working out a partnership with the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. So they're going to be the host of the awards. We're going to do it every year at their facility. Cool. It's actually, we're turning it into a fundraiser for them. I don't need to make money from it. So it becomes an annual fundraiser. We're reaching out to get media partners in it. Do you think that's going to be an unfair advantage for me in the book?
Heck yeah. I want to be part of that somehow. That is so
kind of jealous. I didn't think of the
figure that out.
That is so cool. Yeah, that's another, right? It is thinking outside of the box. And that's where, like, again, the creativity, like, how can you get creative in what your unfair advantage is? And then talking about the vine strategy, right? Having different people that you can work with too, that can help you get the word out about you. Like being here today, right? Being on a podcast with this crazy title of a podcast, right? That also gives you unfair competitive advantage.
And that title is one of you. I mean, well, not just the title, but the personality. Gina, I didn't know that you were a veteran of improv. That's impressive.
You didn't know that? How did we not have that
Second
conversation?
City?
Yeah, I trained at Second City.
What? I was just there.
I saw that. I saw that, and I think I friended one of your friends or something like that. Wherever you,
maybe Craig. I don't know, but
yeah,
outrageous. Yeah, that really takes some guts. And you're right. Layering that on top of business acumen makes you utterly unique. That's an unfair advantage. Who's going to match that?
There's not that many that do.
No, I mean,
there's just not.
It's really similar to my niche also, because I'm a marketer, but I'm also a cartoonist, so it's really pretty similar. That's been a great combination. Just layering of different aspects of, I don't know, your abilities, not just abilities. You got to develop them, but layering of these backgrounds makes you utterly unique.
Well, I think if you look at, I'm very much into right brain, left brain, Renaissance man and woman type of thing, because we need both. And I'm really big into this. I created a course called Creative Selling, which is very actually scientific based. And even when I teach my newest course, Selling with Humor, there's a lot of kind of science behind it, right? Because we need that scientific part. There was an improv conference I was at several years ago, and one of our what was called a learning journey, we spent a day at Stanford University in their engineering department, because that engineering department actually uses improv to help their engineering students do critical thinking, right? And so a lot of times people hear the word improv and they think, funny creativity. And it is all that, but it really brings out the critical problem solving when you can tap into the creativity, right? And the creativity we're actually born with, but then we unlearn it.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
And so when you can layer, my point is like when you can layer left brain and right brain, and you can use both of those on top of each other, that to me is winning, because you can be both parts of the brain, and not everybody can do that. Some people are just left and some people are just right. But if you've got the two, boom, unfair competitive advantage.
Totally. That's, I mean, and a very refreshing insight, actually, because, if you notice that both sides of your brain are firing, then, it's just a very powerful thing. And you feel like, it feels like a superpower.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Woo.
Cool.
I can totally see you.
Wisdom,
I can totally see you hanging out at Second City now. I love that.
It was, when you grow up in Chicago, which is where I'm from, I lived there for the first 40 years of my life. Improv was second nature. It's kind of like if you grew up in Seattle and it's all about coffee. I don't know. I'm just making up things now. But coming from a place like Chicago, like you grew up going to improv shows. Like that was in your DNA. And I took improv classes while I was in college because, believe it or not, I started out as an accounting major to appease my father. And I was miserable because I suck at math. And I started taking classes at Second City to give me balance, because I had always been a creative, right? Like my entire childhood and high school years were all about creative, like art lessons, ballet lessons, voice lessons, acting lessons, dance lessons, all the lessons, right? Like my entire youth. And then I become an accounting major, and it just, something was wrong there. So I started taking improv classes to balance that. And then someone took notice, right? So let's think about when you don't see the things in you, listen to other people or ask other people, because somebody took notice in me and said, you know what? While I was taking classes, he said, you have such a childlike way about you. Never lose that. Now, I was the youngest in my course, in my classes. I was 19 at the time, and everybody else was way older. They were like 30, right? Back then, that felt really old to a 19-year-old, 30, 40, 50. And a lot of them were ad agency people. So the Leo Burnett's and the J. Walter Thompsons, like all those ad agency people in Chicago were taking these improv classes, and I was surrounded by all these creatives. But when that instructor, and a lot of them looked at me as the kid, the girl. And they would categorize me in vamp roles and the stereotypical, trampy girl back in my really beautiful days. And they didn't see my talent. And so when they didn't see my talent, I'm like, I'm just going to milk what they think I am. They think I can only play dumb girl, and I'm going to play dumb girl in every possible skit. And it worked for me because it got attention. And then when this instructor said, you're so childlike, never lose that quality about you.
He was like your coach who helped you realize to
so I held on to that and never let that go, of staying not childish, but in the mindset of a child, right? Exploring, playing, being playful and creative, and not letting anybody stomp on it.
I'll tell you, what's really interesting, Gina, is that there's something about your demeanor. There's a calmness, there's something, it's not just calmness either. You're ready to strike as well. So there's something about your demeanor that shows up because it just fits so well that you have been doing improv. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. I want to say also, though,
you didn't know.
And then I'm going to say also, though, that improv actually became part of the weed mindset as well. And so this is going to sound strange, but in improv, you have to, it's always yes and.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And
yes,
so,
yes.
Like whatever your partner says, you got to just you don't disagree with them. You keep going, however crazy it gets. And so in the weeds mindset section of how to grow your business like a weed, I was saying, look, when we face disruption, a lot of times we just freeze. And it's just freeze with fear. Like, oh my God, another recession is coming. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And so I was I was postulating something called resilience improv to say, whatever comes up, just say, look, okay, that's great. And here's why. And you're just obligated to go in the direction of here's why. Here's what I'm going to pull out of it as an unfair advantage. Here's what I'm going to do to this. This is the new opportunity that's opening up because of this disruption. And so it's just like improv and comedy.
Yeah, the yes and piece of it. This is something that I teach in sales and in objections and in discovery and problem solving. The yes and is such a tool for all of that. It's like, okay, yeah, this just happened. And right, like, how do we heighten this? How do we take it in another direction instead of being shut down and walking away and not letting the yes, but shut us down? Internally, we can yes and someone yes butting, right, and keep moving it forward. It's such a simple, easy tool that I wish the whole world had.
Saves marriages.
Save marriages.
I'll bet it does. Yeah, I mean, it's simple, but I think some of the simple things, like weeds tell us, deal with what is.
Yeah,
and that's kind of like, in stocks, buy low, sell high. Of course, duh. But in practice, it's really hard to do. You don't want to sell your stocks because when they're going up and up and up, you don't want to sell them. Right? They could go up higher. You never know. Or when the stock market has hit the skids, you don't want to be buying stocks. It's really tough to do. And I think also that yes, and in the face of objections or just dealing with whatever it is, dealing with what is, and essentially what that means is setting aside your emotions. And letting your actions lead your emotions and lead you through whatever the difficulty is. But you got to start with, well, what is it? What do I need to deal with? Not what do I feel about it? Not how am I disappointed or I'm disadvantaged by this, anything like that. Just deal with what is the problem? Deal with that. Don't deal with what you feel about it at the moment. You'll feel great about it when you solve it.
Yeah.
I know, Gina. Oh, sorry, Gina.
No, go ahead.
It's the first time we've interrupted each other today. The one thing that I particularly love about this is we talk about, especially in recruitment, about how people have to come in with the right mindset. But the tools that you're speaking about, the analogy that you're speaking about, it's relevant to everyone at the beginning of their sales career. So I could go and talk about how amazing sales gravy is, but let me first of all start with my competitive advantage and unfair advantage. An example of that would be sales gravy. During the pandemic, lots of businesses furlough, they just went off, and sales gravy expanded by the use of virtual learning in a huge way. And I think we actually grew over that time.
Oh, we did. We grew immensely. If you just look at people who attend Sales Gravy University, like Jeb.
But we have to wrap up. I know Gina's going to say,
darn it.
I know.
I'm on minutes.
Okay. But thank you for staying on top of the time. As always, we all are busy. I have to bounce to a call. What are you going to be talking about at Outbound, Stu?
Well, so I've got 2 sessions. The virtual session will be how to grow your business like a weed.
Okay.
And then the in-person session will be about how to get a meeting with anyone. And we'll have a blast with both of those.
Fantastic. We can't wait to see you at Outbound and get to hang out with you. You guys go check out outboundconference.com. I can't remember what our promo code is, but you can, we have a promo code for the show, but in the meantime, you could use Gina 10, Gina 10, 10, basically, to get 10% off coming to Outbound. So come check that out. I also highly recommend that you do the VIP experience. You cannot use the promo code for that. But do you really need a discount? Come on. There's so much value. The VIP experience, I think, is like the best way to go to Outbound. And I'm saying that because, I got a free ticket into it because they're working us. But being able to hang out with the other speakers is so cool. So that's my plug for Outbound. And Susanna, what else we got left, Susanna?
So we're going to ask you a question, Stu, and Gina, you're going to have to answer it as well today. Whatever he comes up with. You've got to choose. I'm going to ask you to either reveal something that I'm going to ask you. Nothing too personal, don't worry. Or I'm just going to quiz you on something, one particular question. So you've got to decide, reveal or quiz.
Stu, you're up.
The easy one would be to reveal something nobody knows. doesn't sound like it's a risky thing. So
you don't know what I'm going to ask.
Yes,
You don't know what I am going to ask a question though. So it's not a reveal anything. So which one are you going to go with?
I want to go with the question.
Ooh, do you know what? You're the first person to do that. So we've still got the question waiting. What was Jeb Blount's first ever published book? And if you get this wrong, you can't come to Outbound.
Oh God!
Only joking.
I don't know. I mean, I know about Inked, and I certainly know about the latest one, and I don't know. Jeb's a machine. That I've never seen anyone write so many books. Actually,
he's written
he writes great books.
He's like 100 books in now.
God, he's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, when I do it, my last book took me 5 years. And that's not what it takes, Jeb.
My first book is still taking me 5 years.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait.
So I guess I won't be talking about anything then.
Yeah, you will, because I didn't even know it, and I worked
What is
with Jeb.
it? What is it?
Yeah, what is it?
I thought it was People Buy You.
That's what I thought too.
But I was wrong. That was 2010, I think. But it was actually a book called Power Principles, which was published in 2007.
Yes.
Wow.
Dang it, we're all fired. Okay.
Yeah, nobody's coming to Outbound now.
All right, Susanna, you gonna give me one? You making me answer?
Are you going to reveal, or are you going to? Well, I haven't got another quiz question, so you're going to have to reveal quickly.
I'll reveal.
So the question for you is: give me an example of a film that has inspired you in the world of sales.
Ooh.
Oh, good one.
Thank you.
Well, I will say the timing is serendipitous on this one. I am currently watching, I'm halfway through it. Don't reveal if you've watched it. I'm watching Moneyball right now because it was a movie I heard Jeb recommend to clients. And my brain is just blown away at Moneyball because it's about baseball. But there's such a sales lesson in it. I'm like fascinated by it. And my husband, who is like baseball fanatic, I'm like, how have you not watched this? I'm like, but let's go watch it again because I'm going to take notes the second time through. So that to me is boom. You got to go watch Moneyball.
I will. And have you seen it, Stu?
Oh gosh, I've got a few of them. Contact is a great one. But the one that I think I really enjoy a lot, it's going to be politically incorrect because of the last Oscars, but Hitch, because Will Smith is in it. And the thing is, Hitch does the most amazing, he helps people get meetings. They're romantic meetings, but he helps them get meetings.
Yeah,
He's
that's
really
a good
good
one.
at it.
I didn't think about that one either. That's
that's a good one. It's a really, really good one.
I want to watch that. That sounds like my kind of film. Thanks.
Yeah, I like
Friday
that.
night sorted.
There we go.
Yeah.
Susanna, what do you got?
Oh, I didn't know it was coming back to me. Do you know what? You guys are going to laugh, and this is really stupid in many ways, but it's actually Legally Blonde. And the reason I'm saying Legally Blonde is because at school, I suffered with dyslexia, dyspraxia. I've told the audience before. And I would say very stupid things. I would trip over. I even struggled to dress myself until I was a certain age. I had a thing with buttons, which is a dyspraxic thing. Anyway, so I was a bit of a nerd. And then, I went to a very, very private school where you have to be well educated to be cool, and you have to be really A grade. And I was, and I would be copying people's homework. But then I got the equivalent of a coach. I got a tutor who really helped me. My grades went up, and I got into Cambridge University, which I mentioned before. It's like the Harvard of the UK. And I remember going there Freshers Week, and someone came up to me, a girl who wasn't very nice in school. And she said to me, Susanna, what are you doing here? And I did the whole L words. I go here. And I actually felt, the reason I'm bringing out that film is not because I'm relating to myself, but I actually used that film to feel inspired because I was seen as that sort of blonde who, was a bit of fluff and not really very bright. So
I love it. That's awesome.
You didn't want a long story, but you got one.
I love it. These were great stories. Stu, it's great to have you here. If people want to reach out to you, connect with you, get your book, all the things, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, I probably visit my author site. So, and I think the spelling of my name will be with the show notes, but StuHeinecke.com. So StuHeinecke.com. And if you go there, if you join my list, I'll send you the first two chapters of how to grow your business like a weed. And otherwise, connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me, just mention that you heard me on the show. That'll make a big difference. Then I might connect with you. I will.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
That's probably the best way.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being here. And thanks to our listeners for listening to this episode of The Women Your Mother Warned You About, brought to you by Sales Gravy. Again, go check out outboundconference.com. And hey, if you want to up level now and you can't wait to get to Outbound, why not go to Sales Gravy University? Check out the courses there. Susanna's got courses. I got courses. There's all kinds of courses. Go check them out. salesgravy.university. And for more information about us, you can go to womenyourmotherwarnedyouabout.com. That's it for this episode. I'm Gina Trimarco, Master Sales Trainer at Sales Gravy, saying goodbye. Goodbye, Stu. And Susanna, any last words from you?
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for joining us, Stu. We loved having you.
Thank you, and see you at Outbound.
See you at Outbound.